The laughter echoed through the dining room like shattered glass, slicing into my chest as I stood frozen in the doorway, clutching the birthday cake I'd spent hours baking. My sister's voice, sharp and dripping with false sweetness, cut through the air. "Oh, look who's finally here, the eternal singleton. Where's your husband and kids? Alright, you don't have any. Must be nice having all that free time too." "What? Knit scarves for your cats?" The room erupted again, my parents' chuckles the loudest, their faces creased with amusement as if my life were a punchline in some cruel family sitcom. My father's hand slapped the table, rattling the silverware, while my mother dabbed at her eyes, gasping, "Oh, Elena, you're terrible, but it's true." Humiliation burned through me, hot and unrelenting, my cheeks flushing as I fought the urge to drop the cake and flee. Instead, I forced a smile, the kind that felt like cracking porcelain, and set the dessert down amid the remnants of their feast. Inside, something snapped, a fragile thread of tolerance I'd clung to for years. That night, as I drove home through the rain-slicked streets, the wipers thumping like a heartbeat, resentment coiled in my gut like a living thing, whispering promises of retribution. How dare they? After everything I'd sacrificed for this family, the late nights covering shifts so Elena could chase her dreams, the loans I'd quietly paid off for our parents, the endless support I'd given without a whisper of thanks. Betrayal wasn't just in words. It was in their casual dismissal, their laughter at my solitude as if my choices, or lack thereof, were a joke. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the anger had hardened into resolve, cold and unyielding. Revenge wouldn't be swift. It would be meticulous, a slow unraveling of the perfect lives they'd built on my invisibility. In the dim glow of my apartment kitchen, I poured a glass of wine, the liquid sloshing against the sides as my hands trembled. The clock ticked mercilessly, each second amplifying the echo of their mockery. I replayed the scene in my mind, Elena's smug grin, her manicured nails tapping the table as she leaned back in her chair. Her husband Mark nodding along like a trained seal, their 2 kids giggling innocently from the floor. And our parents, God, our parents, beaming at her as if she'd just won an award for wit. I'd always been the reliable one, the shadow to Elena's spotlight. Growing up, she'd been the golden child, the one with the effortless charm and the string of admirers, while I buried myself in books and ambitions that never quite panned out. College scholarships went to her. Family vacations revolved around her schedule. I told myself it was fine, that love wasn't a competition, but tonight's barb had pierced too deep, exposing the rot beneath. Heartbreak mingled with fury as I paced the room, the carpet muffling my footsteps. What had I done to deserve this? No husband, no kids, true enough but not for lack of trying. There had been relationships, fleeting and flawed, ended by my own fears or their inadequacies. And Elena knew that. She'd been my confidant once, before marriage and motherhood turned her into this condescending stranger. Obsession crept in as I sat at my computer, fingers hovering over the keys. I could expose her secrets, the affair she'd confessed to me years ago, the one Mark still didn't know about. Or sabotage her perfect career, the marketing job she'd landed with my recommendation. But no, that was too crude, too immediate. Revenge needed to simmer, to build like a storm on the horizon. I closed my eyes, imagining her face crumpling in confusion, then horror, as her world frayed thread by thread. Doubt flickered. Was I really capable of this? The girl who'd always played by the rules, who forgave too easily. Yet the humiliation lingered, a bitter taste on my tongue, fueling the fire. By dawn, as the first light filtered through the blinds, I'd sketched a plan in my notebook. Subtle, insidious, designed to make them question everything without ever suspecting me. The next morning, the city buzzed with indifferent energy as I navigated the crowded subway to work, the rattle of the train mirroring the chaos in my mind. My job as an archivist at the local museum suited me. Quiet, methodical, surrounded by forgotten histories that whispered of long-buried grudges. Today, though, my thoughts were anything but serene. I replayed Elena's words, each syllable a fresh wound, resentment twisting into a knot that tightened with every breath. At my desk, amid stacks of yellowed documents, I pulled out my phone and scrolled through family photos, pausing on one from last Christmas. Elena radiant in her designer dress, arms around her kids, while I lurked in the background like an afterthought. Guilt nipped at the edges of my anger. Were they really so bad? Our parents had raised us both, flawed as they were, and Elena. Well, siblings ribbed each other. But no, this wasn't ribbing. It was erasure, a public declaration that my life held no value. I texted her an innocuous message. "Hey, sorry I left early last night. Cake was a hit." Her reply came swiftly. "Yeah, kids devoured it. You okay? You seemed off." The hypocrisy fueled my resolve. She knew exactly what she'd done. I responded with feigned cheer, planting the first seed. "All good. Just thinking about family stuff. Remember that old vacation house Grandpa left us? We should fix it up sometime." It was a lie wrapped in nostalgia. The house in the woods, dilapidated and forgotten, held memories for us both, but more importantly, secrets. Elena had partied there in her teens, leaving behind evidence I'd quietly cleaned up. Now, it could be the stage for something more calculated. Weeks blurred into a haze of quiet preparation, the autumn leaves crunching underfoot as I walked the paths near my apartment, plotting in solitude. The air carried a crisp bite, mirroring the sharpening edge of my obsession. I'd started small. Anonymous tips to Elena's boss about minor discrepancies in her reports. Nothing damning, just enough to sow doubt. Her texts grew frantic. "Work is a nightmare, someone's gunning for me. Any advice?" I'd reply supportively, all while suppressing a thrill of dark satisfaction. Inner conflict raged. Part of me reveled in the power. Another whispered warnings of regret. What if this spiraled? What if I hurt the kids, innocent in all this? But then I'd recall my parents' laughter, hearty and unapologetic, and the guilt would fade, replaced by cold resolve. One evening, as rain pattered against my window, I drove to our parents' house unannounced. The porch light cast a warm glow, belying the chill in my heart. Mom answered the door, her face lighting up. "Sarah, what a surprise. Come in, dear." Dad was in his recliner, newspaper in hand, the scent of pot roast wafting from the kitchen. We chatted idly, but I steered the conversation deftly. "Elena seems stressed lately. You two okay with her?" Mom sighed. "Oh, she's fine, just busy with the family. Unlike you, with all your freedom." The jab landed softly, but it stung, reigniting the fire. I smiled. "Yeah, freedom's great. Gives me time to dig into old family history." I mentioned the vacation house again, hinting at surprises I'd found there. Dad chuckled. "That old dump. Sell it and split the cash." But I saw the flicker in his eyes. Did he remember the skeletons hidden there? Tension mounted as Thanksgiving approached, the city streets adorned with festive lights that mocked my inner darkness. I'd escalated subtly. A forged email from Elena's account to Mark, hinting at dissatisfaction in their marriage. Nothing explicit, just enough to plant paranoia. Mark called me one night, his voice strained over the phone. "Sarah, has Elena said anything to you? About us?" I feigned concern. "No, why? Everything all right." He hesitated. "Just stuff. Forget it." The seed was sprouting, tendrils of doubt weaving through their lives. At home, I stared at my reflection in the mirror, eyes hollow from sleepless nights filled with fantasies of justice. Heartbreak resurfaced. Why had our family fractured like this? Resentment toward Elena deepened. She'd always taken, never given back. Yet moral conflict gnawed. Was I becoming the monster I despised? Planning continued in the quiet hours, my apartment a sanctuary of schemes. I visited the vacation house under cover of dusk, the gravel driveway crunching beneath my tires, the air thick with pine and decay. Inside, dust motes danced in my flashlight beam as I uncovered old boxes, photos, letters, evidence of Dad's past affair that Mom had forgiven but Elena had weaponized against me once, calling me the product of a broken home in a fit of teenage rage. I photographed it all, digital ammunition for the coming storm. The holiday dinner was a powder keg, the table laden with turkey and tension as we gathered in our parents' cozy dining room, the fireplace crackling like suppressed fury. Elena arrived late, kids in tow, her face drawn. "Traffic was hell," she muttered, avoiding my gaze. Mark was subdued, his usual banter absent. As we ate, conversation tiptoed around landmines. Mom praised Elena's latest promotion, ironically the one under threat from my whispers, while Dad joked about my adventurous single life. I swallowed the bile, replying evenly, "It's given me time to reflect on family bonds." Elena shot me a look sharp as a knife. Later, in the kitchen washing dishes, she cornered me. "What's going on with you? You've been weird." Water rushed from the faucet, masking our words. I turned, drying my hands, and met her eyes. "Weird. Like how you mocked me at your birthday." She flushed. "That was a joke, Sarah. Lighten up." Anger surged, but I held it back, whispering, "Jokes hurt when they're at someone's expense. Especially when the whole family laughs." She rolled her eyes. "Grow up. Not everything's about you." That was the spark, her dismissal fanning the flames. As the evening wound down, I slipped away to the bathroom, sending an anonymous text to Mark from a burner phone. A photo of Elena with her old flame, time-stamped vaguely. The trap was set. Winter descended like a shroud, snow blanketing the city in deceptive peace as my plan unfolded. Elena's calls increased, laced with paranoia. "Someone's hacking my emails, Mark's acting crazy." I'd console her, all while monitoring from afar, my heart a battlefield of triumph and torment. Guilt clawed deeper now. Seeing her unravel brought no joy, only a hollow vindication. Our parents noticed too, Mom confiding over coffee one afternoon in a bustling cafe, the aroma of espresso grounding the surreal conversation. "Elena's falling apart. Marriage troubles, work stress. You're so stable, Sarah. Maybe talk to her." I nodded, stirring my cup, the spoon clinking like chains. "I'll try." But inside, doubt swelled. Was this justice or destruction? Fantasies shifted from revenge to reconciliation, but resentment pulled me back. I delved deeper into family secrets, uncovering financial discrepancies. Dad's hidden debts, Elena's embezzlement from a joint account years ago. The vacation house became central. I invited them all for a reunion weekend to clear the air, my voice steady over the phone despite the pounding in my chest. The drive to the house was tense, the winding roads flanked by skeletal trees under a leaden sky. We arrived as dusk fell, the structure looming like a forgotten relic, its wooden siding weathered and creaking in the wind. Inside, the air was musty, laced with the scent of mildew and memories. The kids explored excitedly, their laughter a stark contrast to the adults' strained silence. Over dinner, takeout warmed on a rickety stove, conversation haltingly began. Mark eyed Elena suspiciously. Our parents sensed the undercurrent. I waited, biding time, until bedtime when I, accidentally, left out the box of old letters. Morning brought chaos. Mark found them first, confronting Elena about the affair evidence. "Is this why you've been distant?" he shouted, voice echoing off the walls. She denied it, tears streaming, turning to me. "Sarah, tell him it's old." But I feigned shock. I didn't know. Our parents intervened, Dad's face paling as his own secrets surfaced in the fray. Accusations flew, the room thick with betrayal stench, Elena's mockery paling against the deeper wounds exposed. As alliances shattered, I stepped back, watching the implosion I'd orchestrated. Heartbreak for the family I'd loved mingled with cold satisfaction. But then the twist. Elena, cornered, revealed her own resentment. "You think you're the victim. You've always been jealous, Sarah. Sabotaging me from the shadows." She produced emails I'd sent anonymously, pieced together with chilling accuracy. Horror gripped me. I'd underestimated her. Our parents stared, disillusioned, as Mark stormed out with the kids. In the ensuing silence, guilt crashed over me like a wave. Revenge had backfired, leaving ruins. Yet in that moment, as snow began to fall outside, a strange peace settled. poetic justice in mutual destruction, forcing us all to confront the rot we'd ignored. The family was broken, but perhaps from the ashes something honest could rise. The fallout lingered like smoke after a fire, acrid and pervasive, as I returned to the city alone that night, the highway stretching endlessly under a moonless sky. Tires hummed against the asphalt, a monotonous drone that couldn't drown the echoes of accusations. Elena's eyes, wild with realization, haunted me. Had she always suspected? Obsession had blinded me to her cunning. She'd been playing her own game, gathering evidence while I plotted. Resentment toward myself now joined the brew, a self-inflicted wound sharper than any mockery. At home I collapsed onto the couch, the fabric rough against my skin, and wept for the first time since childhood. Tears of rage, regret, and raw vulnerability. What had I become? The architect of my own isolation, pushing away the flawed but familiar bonds that defined me. Moral conflict raged anew. Justified or not, revenge had tainted my soul, leaving me adrift in a sea of consequences. Sleep evaded me, the clock's glow mocking my turmoil, as I replayed the weekend's unraveling. The kids' confused faces, mom's silent sobs, dad's defeated slump. By morning, messages flooded my phone, Elena's venomous texts. "You ruined everything. Happy now?" Mark's curt demand for distance, our parents' plea for reconciliation. I ignored them all, retreating into work, the museum's hushed halls a refuge where history's ghosts felt less judgmental than my own. Days turned to weeks, the winter deepening as snow piled against windows, insulating the world in white silence. I threw myself into archiving a new collection, letters from a bygone era of familial feuds, each document a mirror to my chaos. Inner thoughts swirled. Denial that I'd gone too far, fantasies of vanishing entirely, doubt in my right to vengeance. Had Elena's mockery truly warranted this? Or was it the culmination of years of swallowed slights? One afternoon, as flakes swirled outside, a colleague noticed my distraction. "You okay, Sarah? Seem lost." I forced a smile. Family stuff. The usual. But it wasn't. It was a labyrinth of emotions, anger yielding to heartbreak as I realized the depth of our shared pain. Elena had mocked me out of her own insecurities, motherhood's pressures, marriage's cracks, while our parents laughed to mask their favoritism's guilt. Layered motivations emerged in hindsight, humanizing them even as resentment simmered. I began journaling, pages filled with brutal honesty, admissions of jealousy, confessions of manipulation, fears of irreparable damage. Planning shifted from destruction to atonement, but revenge's momentum lingered, pulling me toward one final act. Subtle hints of escalation appeared in Elena's social media, posts about betrayal from those closest, veiled barbs that garnered sympathy from mutual friends. Tension built as I monitored from afar, my apartment a command center of screens and notes. One evening, the buzzer rang unexpectedly. It was Mom, coat dusted with snow, eyes red-rimmed. "We need to talk," she said, voice trembling as she stepped inside, the door clicking shut like a trap. The living room felt claustrophobic, the heater's hum underscoring the awkwardness. She sat, hands clasped. "What happened at the house?" "It's torn us apart. Elena says you orchestrated it." I hesitated, heart pounding, then nodded slowly. "I did. After years of being the punchline." Her face crumpled. "We never meant. We love you, Sarah. But Elena's always been the one who needed us more." The admission stung, confirming my suspicions, yet her vulnerability cracked my resolve. Dialogue flowed haltingly. Revelations of Dad's regrets, Elena's struggles. "She's filing for divorce," Mom whispered. Guilt surged, cold and nauseating. Had I pushed her over the edge? As she left, hugging me tightly, a seed of doubt sprouted. Perhaps revenge wasn't the end, but a catalyst for truth. The city thawed into spring, slush melting into puddles that reflected budding trees, a metaphor for tentative renewal. Yet suspense coiled tighter. Elena reached out via email, subject: "Truce." Her words were measured. "I know what you did. But I get it, I've been awful. Can we meet?" Wariness battled hope as I agreed, choosing a neutral cafe downtown, the bustle of patrons a buffer against volatility. She arrived looking haggard, makeup unable to hide the shadows under her eyes. We ordered coffee, steam rising like unspoken accusations. "Why?" she asked bluntly, stirring her cup. I met her gaze, voice steady despite the tremor inside. "Because your joke was the last straw. Years of being sidelined, laughed at." She nodded. "I was jealous too, of your freedom, your independence. Marriage isn't what I thought." The confession hung heavy, revealing her moral grayness. Manipulation born of envy, not malice. Conversation deepened, secrets spilling. Her affair as escape, my loneliness as armor. Tension eased into catharsis, but underneath, I sensed her hidden motive, revenge of her own. As we parted with tentative hugs, paranoia set in. Was this genuine or a ploy? Back home, I discovered discrepancies. Bank statements showing unauthorized transfers from our joint family account, traced to Elena. Fury reignited. She'd been siphoning funds, blaming me in whispers to our parents. The betrayal doubled, her mockery now a facade for greed. Obsession returned, darker now, as I plotted retaliation, exposing her financially, perhaps anonymously to authorities. Inner conflict peaked. Forgive or finish. Nights blurred in feverish planning, the apartment's walls closing in, sense of takeout mingling with desperation. I visited Dad alone one rainy afternoon, the nursing home where he'd moved after the split smelling of antiseptic and regret. "Sarah," he rasped, gripping my hand, "don't let anger consume you." I did, and look where it got me. His words pierced, evoking guilt for the family I'd fractured. Yet resolve hardened. Elena's duplicity demanded response. The climax brewed as summer heat blanketed the city, air thick with humidity and anticipation. I arranged a final gathering at the vacation house, now listed for sale, a symbolic closure. They came warily. Elena alone, kids with Mark, our parents frail but hopeful. The drive was silent, woods whispering warnings. Inside, amid packed boxes, I confronted her privately in the attic, dust choking the air. "I know about the money," I said, holding printouts. Her face paled. "It was for the kids, after what you did to my marriage." Suppressed rage boiled over. "What I did? You mocked me, stole from us." We argued fiercely, voices rising, until she lunged, grabbing a loose board. Chaos erupted, struggle, shouts echoing. In the melee, a hidden letter fluttered out. Grandpa's will, altered by Dad years ago to favor Elena. The twist stunned us all as parents rushed in. Dad's confession. "I changed it to protect her. You were always stronger." Betrayal's layers peeled back, exposing generational deceit. Elena crumpled, sobbing apologies. I stood numb, revenge's Pyrrhic victory tasting like ash. In the aftermath, as we sat amid the ruins, poetic justice emerged. Not in destruction but revelation. The house sold, proceeds split evenly after truths aired. Relationships mended tentatively. Elena sought therapy, our parents atoned with equity. I found peace in solitude, no longer defined by absence. Yet the scar remained, a reminder of obsession's cost. Heartbreak faded into wisdom, the pursuit ending not in triumph, but uneasy equilibrium. A family reborn from betrayal's fire, forever changed.